Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming here today on this pretty afternoon. We wanted to come out this afternoon and talk to you about what we're going to be doing in the coming days. The Democratic Party of Virginia will be holding events across the Commonwealth to spotlight Republican Glenn Youngkin's pro-Trump extremism. Today we have some fantastic leaders from Richmond to kick off this first event. Mayor LeVar Stoney, Delegate Lamont Bagby, Chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, Delegate LaSharice Aird, and Community Leader J.J. Miner. Glenn Youngkin has shown Virginians that he is running on a dangerous Republican agenda. Youngkin has steadfastly opposed the COVID-19 relief fund that has been a crucial lifeline for working families and small businesses across our Commonwealth. While the American Jobs Plan sped up vaccinations, delivered relief to struggling small businesses, and gave millions of Virginians $1,400 checks to weather the pandemic, Youngkin said it was wrong. Just yesterday, he attacked the American Rescue Plan as unnecessary. As we move forward from the pandemic, Virginians still need help, but Glenn Youngkin would rather play politics than support a bill that helps Virginians make rent, health care, and pay their bills. Youngkin has taken an extremely hard line on health care, railing against Governor Northam's efforts to protect the Affordable Care Act and aggressively attacking Medicaid expansion. Youngkin has taken a hard line against voting rights protections and wants to roll back Virginians' hard-fought progress. Youngkin has opposed crucial steps in the fight against climate change, even railing against the Biden administration's decision to re-enter the Paris Climate Accords. And Youngkin has refused to distance himself from Donald Trump's far-right agenda. Let me make this clear. Glenn Youngkin is a pro-Trump Republican who has echoed the former president's most dangerous conspiracy theories. Glenn will follow Donald Trump in whatever dangerous direction he takes the Republican Party. Now, Youngkin has to consolidate support among the hardline GOP base, and that's no easy task. This chaotic convention that they had only attracted around 30,000 GOP voters, less than 2/3 of the ones that registered. A sign of low energy and disorganization on the Republican side. Amanda Chase won 25% of the convention goers, and Glenn is going to have to prove himself to those voters who think that the convention was rigged and whose only litmus test is complete support for Donald Trump. Youngkin has lavished praise on Amanda Chase, and not once did he dispute her inflammatory, racist, unhinged rhetoric and conspiracy theories. Now that he's the nominee, Glenn Youngkin and the entire Republican ticket will be teaming up with Donald Trump. So today, as I said, we're going to hear from some other Virginia leaders about the importance of standing up to Trump and Youngkin. Let me be clear, if we want to continue moving Virginia forward and continue making progress, we have to elect Democrats in November to fight the GOP's extremism. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our mayor on chime here with the bells. You planned that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Our fantastic mayor, LeVar Stoney.
Well, thank you so much, Chairwoman Swecker, and good afternoon, everyone. You know, this morning I started reading the news of the day, and I happened to read an article about Delegate Kirk Cox. And in that article, a prominent Republican stated they were delighted that Glenn Youngkin was the nominee of the Republican Party. Delighted. Republicans' delight of Glenn Youngkin is a cause for concern for so many Virginians. A cause of concern for Virginia's women when he states that he wants to restrict choice for women in the Commonwealth of Virginia. A cause of concern for people of color in the Commonwealth of Virginia. When you align yourself with Amanda Chase and saying that she was sickened by the Chauvin verdict. And also a cause for concern for Virginia's working class, because we know that Glenn Youngkin will put his corporate insiders first before the working class of Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not our time, not the time, to have a throwback. Glenn Youngkin has the views of a Republican from 1921, not 2021. And for me, that is a disqualification for being governor of the Commonwealth. When you align yourselves with Amanda Chase, you should be disqualified. When you put corporate insiders first before the working class, the hard-working people of the great Commonwealth of Virginia, you should be disqualified. And when you align yourself with the racist rhetoric of Amanda Chase and Donald Trump, you should be disqualified. There will be many, many months for us to look at Glenn Youngkin's record. But from my view, only on the third day as the nominee, he should be disqualified as a candidate for governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And come this November, that's what folks who will go to the ballot will exactly do. They will make sure they vote for the right candidate, and that candidate will be a Democrat in the executive mansion. Thank you. Now, it is my honor to bring to the podium my friend, the chairman of the Legislative Black Caucus, Delegate Lamont Bagley.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the invitation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the introduction. This year, it's clear what the question is whether we want to continue making progress here in Virginia, or whether we let Donald Trump reckless and dangerous policies take hold in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And on the issues that are most important to the Legislative Black Caucus, there's a host of them. But focusing in on voting rights and justice reform, the stakes couldn't be clearer. The individuals that Youngkin has decided to align himself with have been the ones that have opposed us at every step of the way as we try to make this a more just and equitable Commonwealth. Over the past 2 years in Virginia, we have stood to protect the rights of voters. We have passed the first state-level voting rights act in the South. We have expanded absentee and early voting to give Virginians more of a choice of when and how to vote. And I'm so glad that I was able to carry a piece of legislation that makes Sunday voting, early voting, available to voters in the Commonwealth of Virginia. For many years, JJ, we have gone to churches and encouraged individuals to vote, and we have talked about souls to the polls. Now on Sunday, this Sunday even, and the next Sunday, and the Sunday after that, individuals can go to church, go vote, and go to brunch, all as a family. So Sunday is a great day here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, particularly the next 4 Sundays. And we put in place measures during the pandemic that allow Virginians to cast their votes safely and securely. Never, never I feel totally confident saying, never in the Commonwealth of Virginia has voting been so easy and safe. No matter what the Republicans try to say, and sore losers, never in the Commonwealth has voting been as easy and safe. Glenn Youngkin has ran a campaign for the GOP nomination on one issue and one issue alone, repeating Donald Trump's big lie, the scare tactics. Virginia has chosen a different direction. And while other states across this nation have decided to go the Youngkin and Trump and Amanda Chase route and turn back the hands of time, we here in the Commonwealth continue to make sure that we protect access to the ballot box. Virginia has come a long way these past few years. But again, Glenn Youngkin wants to take us back. Just the other day, Glenn Youngkin was asked if he would separate himself from Trump on any issues. I don't know if you all heard the response to that. Exactly. There was no response. He sidestepped the question. But as the mayor said, we have a lot of months ahead of us to make sure that we pose that question to him. Not only where he stands with Donald Trump, but where he stands on each of those issues that we have been focused on here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and across localities of the Commonwealth of Virginia, in every corner of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Make no mistake about it, the work that we do as a Virginia Legislative Black Caucus and as a Democratic caucus is not focused on one race. It is focused on those individuals that are living at or below the margin. Those individuals that have been disenfranchised in this Commonwealth for 400 years. And that's just not black individuals. Usually, it's preyed upon the impoverished communities. And so we're focused on housing, we're focused on justice reform, we're focused on health care, we're focused on education, we're focused on voting rights. The list goes on. You've seen us fighting on the legislative, on the floor. And we are committed to this work. And I'm so glad that I have a partner in LaSharice Aird, and you all have seen her champion the legislation right alongside us. I'm so happy about the legislation as we looked at the justice reform packet that we put forth as not only a caucus, but as not only as a Democratic caucus, but as the Black Caucus. I'm proud of the work that she's done. Not only with no-knock warrants, because there was a lot of talk about issues, but we wanted to make sure that we kept our promises. And so Delegate Aird has led the way on no-knock warrants. She has led the way on making sure that individuals have access to clean water. And she has also made sure that we declare racism a public health crisis. So without further ado, I give you my colleague, Delegate LaSharice Aird.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for that kind introduction, and it's a pleasure to join my friends in the fight, Mayor Stoney and Chairwoman Swecker and community activist Minor. You know, we've already talked about the great clarity that we have witnessed in this moment. So I'm going to refer to it as a revelation. This week really revealed the moment that we are in right now. You know, the reference was made earlier that about 30,000 people tried to set the tone for the future of our Commonwealth. They tried to make a statement that Virginia wants to go back to a place that we left behind years ago. And that could not be further from the truth. And it could not be further out of step with the rest of our Commonwealth. Virginians have made it clear since 2019 that they want Democrats, they want the values and the principles of Democrats, and everything that we as Democrats stand for. Since winning the majority in 2019, Democrats have kept their promises to uplift and empower all Virginians. And earlier this year, at the 2021 session, at a time where so many were hurting as a result of this pandemic, Democrats continue to keep their promises by passing a number of relief and reforms to really help get people back onto their feet. Meanwhile, Republicans have been doing the exact opposite. They have been obstructing us every step of the way. They have been unwilling to summon the moral courage to rise to the urgent needs of this moment. While Democrats have demonstrated that we are the party fighting for a better future for working families of the Commonwealth. Republicans have also used incendiary, Trumpian rhetoric to distract from the ineptitude as they run from their failures, which it has been made clear by many of the speakers before me just how hard they are trying to avoid admitting to embracing the Trump rhetoric. The GOP has shown us who they are, and Glenn Youngkin is leading the way, and he is truly embodying the moral bankruptcy of the Republican Party. Youngkin won his nomination by invoking the same vacant platitudes that define the Trump presidency. And Youngkin has committed himself to the man whose legacy is one of cruelty, indifference toward the suffering of everyday Virginians and Americans. Make no mistake about it. Glenn Youngkin will drag the Commonwealth backwards and undermine the progress that we have made to improve the lives of countless people. And we cannot go back. It can't be said enough. Over and over again, you will hear all of us talk about how we can't go back. And you want to know why we can't go back? Because I have neighbors who are seniors that are still very much desperate to have relief relative to their health care and prescription costs. I have a mother of 2 young boys, and the parents, when I drop my kids off to school, still talk about the massive investments that we need to make in education, so we can't afford to take one step backwards. My communities that I represent, and each of the legislators up here and the mayor, we have so many needs that continue to be addressed, and we're finally allowing working families to begin to make progress on earning a living wage. We can't take this moment and set them back because we are just showing them the progress that we can have here in our Commonwealth. So Democrats have been making that progress. We'll continue to be making that progress, and we will not let someone like Glenn Youngkin and the ticket of the Republican Party take us backwards in November. It is my pleasure now to introduce another Democrat in the fight with us, community activist J.J. Minor. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all. To Chairwoman Swecker, to Mayor LaVar Stoney, to Delegate Lamont Bagby, and to Delegate LaSharisa Air, and all who are assembled, thank you for having me today. This year, Republicans in 43 states have proposed over 250 different pieces of legislation to restrict the right to vote. We saw what happened recently in Florida and Georgia, where Republican governors signed bills behind closed doors to limit access to polls and erect barriers to voting. But here in Virginia, we've done the opposite. Thanks to Democrats in the General Assembly and Governor Northam, Virginia has helped lead the way in the fight for voting rights. As Delegate Bagby mentioned, we passed bill after bill to make voting easier, safer, and more accessible to Virginians. And we've seen the effects. Virginia had a record voter turnout in the 2020 election, and more people voted early than ever before. But to Glenn Youngkin and Republicans in Virginia, that's a problem. Youngkin has bought into Donald Trump lies about the 2020 election and is running on a plan to bring the disastrous voter suppression laws we've seen in other states to Virginia. The only policy plan Glenn Youngkin put forward during his campaign for the nomination was a phony election integrity plan where he outlined his steps to suppress the vote in Virginia. This is one of the defining civil rights issues of our time. We're at a crossroads for our democracy, with one party standing with the facts and one party spewing lies about the election that led to a violent attack on the Capitol that killed 5 people. Just a few years ago, Virginia was known for voter suppression. The legacy of Jim Crow made us the second hardest state to vote in. Today, we're the only state in the South with the state-level Voting Rights Act, and we have no intention of going backwards. Democrats have fought hard to protect the right to vote. We believe that in our democracy is stronger when more people participate. It's sad that Glenn Youngkin disagrees and would rather side with conspiracy theorists than protect people's sacred right to vote. With Republicans across the country and here in Virginia, pushing voter suppression schemes, the only way to protect our democracy is to vote for Democrats in November. Glenn Youngkin has shown us who he is, pro-Trump Republican, who has demonstrated complete allegiance to the former president's most dangerous conspiracy theories. Where Trump leads, Glenn follows. And Virginia can't afford to go down that path. Virginia must move forward. And again, as all of my colleagues have said, we can't turn back the hands of time. Thank you. And now I'm back to the Democratic Party of Virginia.